He's written about alternative treatments for diabetes. He's written about suicidal runs down the Grand Canyon of the Grand Canyon, period, Colorado River, in the Grand Canyon. And these are just some of his short stories. I happen to know that he's going to be reading some of his creative nonfiction tonight, and I am very excited about it. And I'm kind of a bitch, so if I'm excited about it, you guys should be. This is our sign-up sheet for those of you who have not been to Helicon West before. If you want to read up to 7 minutes of your work after Eric gets finished, find me and the sign-up sheet, and we will put you down. Okay? And that having been taken care of, I assume I've embarrassed you enough, so come on up and let's go.
Tim's right. I dabble in creative nonfiction and a little bit of prose and short stories, but there's many in this room that I know are better than me, and so I appreciate the invite, and I hope I don't disappoint too dramatically. This is something, 3 daughters here tonight. This is brand new, Mackenzie, and this is for you.
Oh,
Nice.
It's called,
yeah.
it's called Pass Through. How's things and shit? I text the 4th one, the daughter that almost wasn't. Pretty good and shit. She usually texts back, including our favorite dangling modifier. I picture her on the bus with teammates, headed to her softball game. Ready to play and shit, I ask? Hell yeah and shit, she texts back. Listen to the coach, I warn. He gets pissed if you don't. Will do and shit, she sends me back. The Geico commercial cracks our family up. We've been laughing about Tarzan and Jane. The chimpanzee who doesn't know where the waterfall is. And the catch line, when you're a couple, you fight over directions. It's what you do. I catch some inspiration and thumb the text. When you're Mackenzie Bishop, you hit the ball and shit. It's what you do. Laugh out loud, she texts back. Fast forward to inning 7, still tied 0-0. A duel between unbeaten pitchers. My offspring swings in the on-deck circle. 2 out and a full count for the batter in front of her. A wild ball, and Mackenzie's teammate takes first on a rare walk. I need to look at the words. Mackenzie looks at coach and makes a circle with his thumb and fingers that he holds up in front of his eye, the signal for a take or a pass-through. No matter what, don't swing at the first one. Get a feel for the speed. Mackenzie nods. Coach claps and nods back. The pitcher winds up, throws, and Mackenzie swings. It's a hit, but coach throws down his hat. He's stomping until the ball drops in left center gap and rolls, rolls all the way to the fence. The left fielder has the best angle. Coach holds up the teammate on third, but Mackenzie doesn't stop at second. Pile-ups like this lose games, and in a moment of confusion, coach frantically sends the teammate home. The left fielder has a cannon. The throw sails to the third baseman, who makes an easy catch. Ponytail bouncing, Mackenzie slides into third base. This one could go either way. Did she beat the throw? The umpire waves his hands. My offspring is safe. Janalee and I drove home thinking of Mackenzie. On the bus with her teammates, we pull over for gas and I thumb a text. Great hit and shit. I push send. My phone buzzes with Mackenzie's response. Thanks. It felt way awesome and shit. How's coach, I ask. Pissed and shit, comes her answer. But you won the game. I ignored the signal and shit, but it was a perfect pitch. A few seconds later, my phone buzzes. The nozzle clicks, the tank is full. My phone buzzes again, another text from daughter who almost wasn't. Love you, Padre. Thanks for coming and shit. Ready to go, Janalee asks. I climb in and belt up. My phone buzzes. You and Mom are awesome parents and shit. I show the text to Janalee and we share a chuckle before responding. The words come easy. Mom and I think you are an awesome kid, and that's no shit. This is something I wrote a few years ago, I haven't read for a while, called Go Forth and Kick Ass, about daughter number 3. My daughter steals a soccer ball. The opposing defender chases, stabbing with her feet. but she's overpowered. A lane opens, only my daughter sees. She kicks. The ball scoots through a forest of uniforms to her teammates' feet. Another pass to Mountain Crest forward, who stands alone facing the keeper. The net whiffs back. The girls jump in celebration, their arms skyward. Am I really this old? Age wrinkles on my knuckles prove it. Skin that used to be supple now needs daily lotion. I ache at the end of workouts. Recovery time grows with the years, as does my ibuprofen bill. Good thing my iron gut isn't bothered by the daily dose of vitamin I. Glucosamine and chondroitin help, but not today. The echoing aluminum structure covered the sound of my crackling cartilage as I walked up the bleachers. My seat is above the tunnel I once ran through on my way to a brand new field. I was there the day Mountain Crest opened to students in 1983. Shiny new bricks and tile, varnish on the woodwork, fresh carpet glue in the air so strong it gave us headaches. Unscratched lockers lined the hallways. Our new shrink-to-fit 501 jeans had more wear than the building because we had to soften them with a half dozen wash and dry cycles to get them on or have the crotch buttons work. I ran through the bleacher tunnel that first day, helmet in hand after school to football practice. During drills, the mouth guards forced the air through our noses, and with it came whiffs of freshly mowed grass mixed with the dairy to the north. Whenever we could, the mouth guards dangled like pendulums from our face masks. Bonneville High on Thursday, the coaches shouted. Will the first game on this field be a win? A few days later we played a junior varsity contest, and I was the starting right guard. My teammates' red faces, not to mention our fresh scrapes and bruises, proved how hard we worked. We still lost. The coaches berated us first and built us up second. It didn't matter then and still doesn't now. Collisions, violence, chaos. I miss football. Has it been more than 30 years? Big hair on girls and mullets on boys. Miami Vice's bright colors and Don Johnson-inspired white jackets over pastel t-shirts. What was in the air the night Phil Collins wrote that song? The drum solo at the end still gives me chills just thinking about it. At least our drugs came from the ground back then, not brewed in a mad scientist's laboratory. Cocaine didn't stay in Florida. A contractor I worked for in the summer used to have one of the workers drive in from job site to job site each afternoon. Take a break, Eric, he'd say to me once a week on my day off to chauffeur the boss. He'd pile his briefcase in a duffel in the hatch of my Pinto before stopping for a big gulp at 7-Eleven, his treat. 32 ounces of ice and carbonated caffeine is not so big by today's standards. We'd spend the afternoon going place to place. I'd sit in the car and he'd run in. Checking on a potential job, he'd tell me. The stops took most of the afternoon and was better than working. A few years later, the contractor was arrested and the Polaroid developed. Our unfamiliar vehicles were a shell game for the cops. Eddie Murphy's F-bombs made us laugh. He was destined to be Donkey on Shrek. Bill Cosby was funnier and the epitome of family and home life, and he rarely swore. The sun burned us because the ozone layer was depleted. The scientific community was united. Fluorocarbons from hairspray, they said, creates holes in the atmosphere to the north and south. The seeds of destruction sown without our knowledge as women teased their hair higher. Then someone invented hairspray and hair gel and saved the world. Or was it Kelly McGillis wearing her hair down and single-handedly changing the style in Top Gun? Dan Rather and Tom Brokaw scared us each night, telling us how the world would implode. Daily words of anger flew across the oceans, forecasting nuclear holocaust. Hollywood bought in, and so did teenagers who flocked to see Arnold as the Terminator. My folks had a cement room in their basement. Sandbags could be put in the window wells the moment the splitting atom turned the Cold War hot. Then a cowboy stood on a wall. He wore a suit and tie, but we all knew he was a cowboy. He stood alone, staring down the enemy. Tear it down, he insisted, and the world blinked. Perhaps a week earlier, the gods convened a council. The little pieces of energy we gave them as reality, they've learned to break them apart, one of them said. Was the cowboy or Mr. Gorbachev listening? Maybe both. The airwaves brought rock to our ears. Sammy Hagar couldn't drive 55, and neither could the nation. And cocaine remained the coping mechanism for all of it. I tasted my first beer in the 80s and my second and third. A dairy farmer named Oscar taught me how to cuss while working my teenage ass into the ground. 4 days off in 18 months. I repented and had a religious experience for 2 years and 6 days, but I wasn't counting. Western Pennsylvania took me in, the Rust Belt cities next to slow-moving rivers with tugboat-pushed barges brimming with coal. Occasionally, people believed us and got baptized. An 800-page book changed my life. Which book? My book is my book. Find your own. It wasn't the words, it was the elevation of spirit it gave me for one moment at a specific part. It made the 2 years and 6 days worth every second. For some, it's the best 2 years in life. Me? Shit. I should have had that fourth beer and then repent again. Maybe I'll work hard like Oscar did and swear all I want. Near the end of his life, Oscar came to church a few times. One Sunday, the speaker told of a man who lived a profanity-free life. Bet that bastard never owned a hay baler, let alone a dairy, Oscar said. I met my all-American skier wife at Mount Hood a few days after returning from Pennsylvania. Cute, curvy, healthy, a decorated athlete, and she wanted to ride up the lift with me. Her blue eyes beneath the goggles, her heart-shaped lips under the Palmer Glacier in August of 1988. That same night, Vice President Bush told us to read his lips. He wasn't the cowboy. Damn shame. Janilee sat next to me on the ride home. She was better than me. She was better than me, better than rock and roll, better than skiing or a month of rock concerts, even better than football or any religion. We had 4 daughters. The third is playing wing today on the turf at my old high school. What's turf all about? When did they replace the grass? Does it hurt when a player takes a digger? I'll ask my daughter. The post-goal girl hug cluster breaks up. Their smiles infect us in the stands. We cheer and clap and shout. Our middle-age aches forgotten in the joy of our daughter. The one they said wasn't good enough a year ago. It pissed her off. She didn't swear like Oscar, but she worked like him and came back to make the team. I wrote her a letter a few weeks before tryouts. Pray, listen, be mindful of others. It was a religious outing after all, where the teenagers had an hour to go read parent letters. Some spiritual thought went into my words, especially the final line. Go forth and kick ass, I told her. And she did. Oscar would have loved it. She gives us a thumbs up while trotting to midfield. The referee sets the ball on turf to restart play, and the whistle blows. Cassidy, this is a little dated. There needs to be an addendum because I wrote this when you were 18. It's kind of a fun piece, and I haven't read it for a while. It's called One Hell of a Sunbeam. Too much in life is cultural. We do this, we do that. I'm guilty of taking it at cruise control, a skiing metaphor I once heard applies. Just standing on the boards and watching the hill come toward me. Someday I'll be at the bottom of the mountain, run over. So why do I live this way? A friend calls it mental time travel, always thinking ahead or behind, but not seizing the moment, which is why I love kids and puppies. They're always present. For them, life is about now. Is it hot or cold? They're happy or sad, instead of wanting or waiting for a mood or temperature change. My role model for present living is Cassidy, my second daughter. I find her drifting like all teenagers do, daydreaming occasionally, but for the most part, she seizes it like it matters. Artwork adorns her walls. She drives her sisters to and from with little complaint. It all started as a mischievous badger of a little girl, into shit, like cupboards, pulling junk apart for the sheer joy of it. I liked her from the start. Even though she was constantly in trouble, she'd smuggle toys to her crib to play with at night and mess things up right after putting it away. There was that damn toy, the wheeled contraption with the transparent dome full of plastic balls. She'd push it along and the balls would pop inside. Try doing anything that takes concentration with that toddler rolling that thing around. I dare you. Cassidy loved it, or at least loved seeing the reaction it got from those around her. Punishment for this and other misdeeds came in the form of time out. It worked for the most part. We'd put her in the corner for a while, hoping her little brain would process why she was there. As the months wore on, it became a joke. The timeout corner became prison, and Cassidy was the convict. After 10 minutes or so, I'd stroll over and ask, "Is the convict ready for the parole hearing?" She'd push her hair away, crinkle her nose, and say, maybe. Are you going to stop hitting your sister over the head with the Barbie? She'd frown, crinkle her brow, grab her toes, and say, if she stops looking at me. Rather than leave her there, we'd usually let her out. Within the hour, she'd be back in prison awaiting her next hearing. In horse trainer language, Cassidy was hardly church broke, but we took her each Sunday. There was a nursery for her until she turned 3. Then she had to go to junior Sunday school to attend her Sunbeam class. They'd try to get her to fold her arms, sit on a chair, and sing along reverently. It lasted about 5 seconds. The wad of gum beneath her seat or the hole in her nylons held her attention fine, but trying to get her to sing didn't work out so good. She bitched about it too. I want to go back to the nursery. I couldn't blame her. Playing with toys, coloring, building stuff with the blocks all looked more fun to me. One week we missed church. She must have liked it because she came to me afterward with a serious look on her face and said, Dad, what? When I grow up, then there was a long pause. I'm going to go to church every other Sunday. I laughed, but Jesus wants you for a sunbeam, Cassidy. I'm not a sunbeam, I'm a convict. Sitting in the corner is at least as fun as church, so I didn't correct her. I envied her honesty and still do. Today she's 18, 21. A senior in high school, a unique combination of gorgeous and tough. Her boyfriend's a nice guy, but I like him better when I don't see him. Her middle-aged dad couldn't have prayed for a better skiing, horse training, and river running partner. She's passed 3 advanced placement tests and several college courses by now. And she even enjoys attending church. This last piece is something I've worked on. Tim encouraged me to write this, and the names have been changed to protect the guilty. It was easy to spot new missionaries after 2 years, especially the guys from Southern California. They showed up in monogrammed shirts and cufflinks, wearing European sunglasses as they searched for the Pennsylvania sun. I didn't have the heart to tell them how quickly their tans would fade under the cloud cover in Amish farm country. Elder Bishop, I said to one of them, offering my hand. I'm Elder Weiler, he said as he limp-fished the shake, and I am from Southern California. I'm from Utah, I said, and I am going home. It wasn't so much what, but how Southern Californians said it. There was a pause between Southern and California, letting you know where they hailed from somehow made them superior. Had I given him a moment to pontificate, the pattern would have held. Weiler would have surely told me about his expensive shades and tailored suit. My suit was from the rack of some department store, and I was looking forward to wearing jeans and t-shirts. The whole scenario of mission life, what you wore versus actual service rendered, seemed so superficial. In that moment, it made my stomach turn. 2 years of my life was gone, much of it spent humoring people who were all about wearing the perfect clothes. Guys like Elder Weiler lived to regale folks back home. A real spiritual ass-kicker, complete with pictures for Mommy and Daddy. At the time, the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania mission was the lowest baptizing English-speaking mission in the world, so I doubted he would actually convert anyone, let alone accomplish anything worthwhile. I turned back, and there was Weiler, front and center for the picture posing, with other newbies clustered around him like they'd just stormed the beach at Normandy, and by God, they looked good doing it. I looked down at latex paint in my nail beds from a service project for a guy we had tracked it into, and random thoughts congealed. Designer clothes and latex paint shared something with the worst parts of organized religion. They could all be used to cover lots of flaws, and as far as I was concerned, a little bit could be spread a long way. I'd had enough of 24-hour, 7 days a week religion, and I said as much on leaving, letting my mission president know I was looking forward to smearing the roller of church involvement to the fullest coverage. Take care of the inside, he responded without being ruffled, and you won't need to worry about painting the surface. I'd been home 6 months and hadn't been to church in 5 when the phone in my apartment rang. Who could it be and what did they want? If I would have had caller ID back then, I would never have taken the call. Hello, I said. Bish? The caller knew my nickname. Who's this? I asked, the familiar but unidentified voice. It's Boyd. How did you get my number? I only knew one Boyd, as an elder Boyd from my mission. Thankfully, Boyd was from a potato farm in southern Idaho, not southern California. Last I'd heard, President Fonsbeck, our mission president, had made Boyd his assistant. It wasn't unheard of to hear from missionaries via phone call, but an assistant breaking a rule was surprising. Got bad news, Boyd told me. Fruit of your loins, Elder Koch boards the plane tomorrow. Larry Koch was a missionary I had trained and was therefore fruit of my loins. He still had another 6 months on his mission, so what Boyd was telling me was that Larry Koch was going to be sent home early. My mind went to Koch's type 1 diabetes first and his main affliction second. My trainee hated being a missionary. His pre-mission life had been filled with pot smoking, beer, and girls. A brown belt in karate was his sole passion for anything requiring discipline. I dragged Koch's ass from doorstep to doorstep the first month. Street after street, nobody bought any religion, especially Koch. In between door approaches, he talked about his girlfriend and getting high. Daily requests to buy pot or beer eventually wore me down. I didn't care for tedious door approaches either and figured if I wanted to take drugs as a missionary, I may as well pack it up and leave. In a secondhand store, we found common ground. A used black and white television cost us $25. Santa Barbara, General Hospital, and weekend football got us through the next month. When transfers came, I wished his next companion luck. I was grateful to be unshackled. Bish? Boyd's voice whisked me back to Utah. You there? I'm here. Is Koch okay? What happened? Remember Sister Red? Sure do. Sister Red's freckles and Pippi Longstocking persona flashed through my mind. Lots of elders had crushes on her at first glance, but the staunch adherence she exuded to all things Mormon soon killed plenty of missionaries' mojo, mine included. Turns out she and Koch had been sneaking out after their companions fall asleep for extracurriculars. What, you mean like the big F, Bish, fornication? Where did they go, I asked. Church, Boyd said in a strange mix of admiration and bewilderment. No shit? No shit, Boyd responded, letting me know with the cussing the Idaho farm boy in him still lived. Red missed her period and called her mom, and her mom called Fonzie. Fonzie was short for President Fonsbeck, and sex in a church brought an all-new meaning to extracurriculars, which in a mission setting usually meant things like going to a movie or getting up late. You there, Bish? Yeah, I said, picturing Larry Koch and Sister Red on the foyer couch. So Fonzie sends me and the comp to gas up the mission van. He and Sister Fonsbeck go get Sister Red. Me and my companion fetch Koch. Holy shit, I said. Holy shit. I know, Bish, it's crazy. So is Sister Red pregnant, I asked? Nah, Boyd said like he was shrugging off a tidal wave. She pissed a negative and then the red-headed cousin showed up. Boyd had a way of gleaning pertinence with a few words, and I couldn't help but chuckle over his terms for a negative pregnancy test in a woman's period. This is fucking crazy, I said, not knowing what else I could say. Here's the best part, Boyd exhaled. Fonzie's psycho. What do you mean? Gutsiest move in the history of gutsy moves, Bish. What did he do? I asked, picturing the Spitfire Texan who had been my mission president. So he brings me and my companion into his office to call Salt Lake. He puts the call on speaker and goes on for 20 minutes about what great missionaries they both are. He totally glosses over them having sex 6 times in the church. 6 times, I asked? Like jackrabbits, I guess. So what did Salt Lake say, I asked? They ordered Fonzie to excommunicate both of them immediately and send them home. No big surprise there, I said. Yeah, but Fonzie got pissed. He told Salt Lake to excommunicate him too and find a new mission president if that's how they wanted to handle it. Boyd paused to clear his throat. And? I asked. Salt Lake totally blinked. Fonzie negotiated probation for both of them and an apology from church headquarters for micromanaging God's appointed servant for this particular job. Wow, tell me about it. So what happened? Koch and Red will get released to stake missions for 3 months. Then they have the option of returning to finishing another mission. I can't believe Fonzie, Bish. I can't believe him. While Boyd was in awe, I was not. A member we baptized nicknamed President Fonsbeck Fonzie, and it stuck. None of us would have dared call the double tough look-alike of Colonel Potter from MASH anything but President Fonsbeck to his face. He had been there to greet me and a dozen other new missionaries as we got off the plane. I was shouldering regular teenage guilt for deeds I now consider mild. I had lied through my worthiness interviews and was positive he'd send me home or were what I needed to confess. I let it out during our first interview a few hours later. "Is that all?" Fonzie asked. "Yes," I said, expecting a lecture and a plane ticket. "Let's pray," Fonzie said cheerfully. He grabbed my wrist and the words started before our knees hit the floor. "Dear Lord, inasmuch as thy servant elder bishop has come before me, thy servant President Fonsbeck, thy common judge in Zion, in this mission of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and has dutifully and righteously confessed, please transfer his sins from the account of justice to the account of mercy." President Fonsbeck paused at this point for a better grip on my wrist. "Help him go forward nobly, bravely, filled with thy Holy Spirit. See that he baptizes mightily. Help he and his companion in finding thine elect in diverse and sundry places. Lead him, guide him, walk beside him. Gird him with thy power that he may conquer any and all evil as he labors for and in behalf of others. This is our prayer, Lord. Amen." We stood. Fonzie released my wrist and patted me on the shoulder. Our eyes locked. "Send in Elder Conley. He's next." President Fonsbeck hear me? I walked out the door wondering if his hearing aids needed to be adjusted. Before I could clarify, I was shuttled away. And that's how it went for the next 2 years. Fonzie insisted on hearing it all, the smallest indiscretion to the largest. Everything from having a bad attitude to drinking alcohol and dating local girls was answered with the same prayer. We joked amongst ourselves about having our sins transferred from the account of justice to the account of mercy. He sent missionary after missionary forward, feeling like $1,000,000 spiritual bucks. I wanted to ask what the difference between baptizing mightily and just plain old baptizing was, but never dared ask. A pep talk often followed the prayer. The Lord loves a repenter, Fonzie assured us collectively and individually. He just plain does. At our second interview, he told me to repent for shame I was still feeling for what I had told him a month earlier. I did. Fonzie was so easy to disclose my faults to, I considered making things up so I could confess about lying about needing to confess. Other presidents, where did I go? I'm sorry, guys. Okay.
Need to repent.
Yep. That my mission present was unique among Mormon church leadership wasn't lost on me. Friends in other missions told of missionaries getting sent home dishonorably by law and order presidents who apparently operated from a mindset of continuing harsher beatings until morale improved. The days dragged, but the time flew. I found people to baptize. Often my most useful days were spent wearing jeans and t-shirts, helping anyone from farmers to elderly men paint their homes. 2 years after I walked off the plane, it was time to go. After a final dinner, we gathered in the living room of the mission home where the Fonsbecks lived, all 12 of us, who 2 years earlier had walked off the plane brand new. We now sat in worn-out suits, looking at our tattered shoes and frayed cuffs, at formerly white shirts, now sweat-stained dingy yellow. Fonzie called on us one at a time to bear our testimonies about our missions. I took a few minutes to thank my friends while savoring being released from church-related tasks. Fonzie went last. For 2 years he had proven he could and would fill the time with passionate speech about the gospel of repentance. There was no time limit, so I settled in. I was grateful the couch was comfortable. Fonzie stood, stretching the moment in focused study, seeming to look both through and away from us. Not minding my transparence, I returned his gaze, eager for the words that would carry me into adulthood. And then it happened. I just came from a conference of mission presidents in New York, Fonzie began. It was interesting to say the least. The president from Philadelphia bragged about tough love and iron-handed enforcement. Don't let the inmates rule the penitentiary, he told us. Don't get me wrong, most of you have belonged in shackles and orange jumpsuits instead of white shirts and ties at some point these last 2 years. We laughed in grateful consideration of our lenient warden. I've considered being like that Philadelphia brother many times, Fonzie continued, how much better I might have slept after sending Elder Bishop or Beck or Johnson or Larson home early. But I would still worry what you were up to. Sister Fonsbeck tells me to stop worrying because you missionaries tell me what you've done in our monthly interviews anyway. This Philadelphia guy, though, Fonzie shook his head in open disgust. He sends missionaries home for leaving their area. For leaving their area, Fonzie boomed. What kind of man does that? We collectively shrugged in what was the quietest room I've ever been in. His scowl softened. Disgust lines of righteous indignation in his brow went away as blood left his bright red face. He swallowed into a nod and a smile. His eyes watered. We all studied one another. Sniffles filled the room. I know you missionaries wonder about me, why I'm the easiest guy on the planet to confess to. I don't often say it, but tonight I feel prompted. Fonzie cleared his throat. I hope that when I meet my Maker, he's as forgiving of my flaws as I've been of you missionaries. It was the shortest speech I ever heard Fonzie offer. Bish? I had to clear my throat before answering. Yeah? Coke ain't coming back. He's gonna need some friends. I'll go see him, I answered. Thanks, man. I knew you would. Hey, Boyd, can you do something for me? Sure, Bish, what? Say hi to Fonzie for me. What, and let him know about our extracurricular call, Boyd joked. Hey, how's that can of latex paint holding up? Apparently word had gotten around about my philosophy on spreading organized religion thin. It's been working so far, I chuckled. Credit Fonzie, Boyd said. He figured as much. What do you mean? He's who gave me your number and suggested I'd give you a call. Boyd and I said our goodbyes, promising to keep in touch. We haven't spoken since. Life has gotten in the way. Our thoughts were noble decades ago, and I have no guilt over exchanging sincere plans for the practicalities of job and family. I went to see Coke, and he came to see me. The white shirts and ties were gone. There was no religious pretense. He was back to smoking pot, karate, and girls. I was happy for the guy. Authenticity matters more to me as I get older. Sister Red served 3 months of probation and returned to New York Mission, where she finished her time honorably. I still prefer most things to church and the comfort of casual clothes to white shirts. I've softened about Southern Californians and others. Elder Weiler had a point. Parts of his state are as nice as any place on the planet. Decades later, I think of whited sepulchres, of appearance versus reality. I appreciate those who do good things with zero care for uniforms or dress codes or how they look doing it. I saw Fonzie once at a mission reunion shortly after I was married. He mentioned the can of paint and allowing my inside to paint my outside with vibrant color. I wish I had been there when Fonzie called Salt Lake in Coke and Red's behalf. Instead, I cling to Boyd's retelling. Perhaps the man on the other end blinked, knowing something bigger than Salt Lake and Mormon Church headquarters would eventually demand an accounting of those he'd forgiven. Or maybe he backed down because he knew the man on the other end wouldn't. For some like Fonzie, there is no bluff and there is no uniform. Forgiveness comes first, judgment is an afterthought. There are only flaws to cover, his and others. The latex paint analogy has worked for me. A little bit of church still goes a long way. Those who disagree call my approach superficial and come from lots of places. Fortunately, they're easy to spot because they generally show up wearing cufflinks, expensive glasses, and tailored suits. Thank you.
What did I tell you?
Wow.
You know, he writes short fiction. He's got a published novel called The Samaritan's Pistol, which if you haven't already bought it, you all need to buy. And his creative nonfiction is awesome. Thank you once again, Eric. And by the way, I forgot to actually tell you his name when I introduced him. So it's Eric Bishop, everybody. Thank you. I also forgot to thank our library partners for allowing us to be here, and to thank Star for creating Helicon West in the first place. So. I generally forget 2 or 3 things, but I always remember them before the end of the night. So far. Okay, is there anyone that would like to sign up who hasn't? Okay. There's only 5 of them, so I'm just going to go through the list in order, and you guys remember your order, okay? Diane Hardy, Lynn Allen, Robin Buttars, Jospeh Anderson, and myself.
As I was listening to Eric, I was thinking, I shouldn't have signed up first because he's going to be so hard to follow. I can remember when you first came in, and I haven't heard a lot of your stuff since for a while. You have improved so much. You are so good.
Thank you, Diane.
You bet. Okay, this is a story that I wrote some time ago about my little brother when he starts school. Scotty was up before dawn, so excited he couldn't eat a bit of breakfast. He whirled around the house singing, "Hory Gory had a New York," his interpretation of my recording of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir of "Glory, Glory, Hallelujah." Today would be his first day of kindergarten. I remembered acting the same way when I was his age, minus the song. Too bad that excitement doesn't last, I thought. To me, entering the 10th grade simply meant getting to wear my new purple Jansen skirt and sweater with my lavender scarf and earrings. "How was school today, Scotty?" I asked as we sat around the dinner table that night. "It was super duper. I'm going to go every single day. Mrs. Summers chose me to pass out the milk." "Did you play with other kids?" Mother asked with a worried smile. "Sure, all of them." Daddy and Mama looked at one another and gave out a collective sigh. Scotty was not good in new situations, often withdrawing rather than joining activities. But his enthusiasm continued, and within days we heard about Frank, Scotty's new friend, ad nauseum. How tall he was, how strong, how everyone liked him. Frank was fearless on the playground, going down on the slide head first, climbing to the top of the jungle gym, pumping girls up on the swings. One day he kissed Kathy on the cheek as they ran into the building after recess. "Sounds like Frank is a fun kid, Scotty," I said. "Yeah, and I'm his best friend. He says that all the time." Other accounts of Frank weren't too favorable, like the time Frank jumped off his desk 3 times before Mrs. Summers sent him to the closet. "Frank's cool," Scotty said. "He just turned on the light and played with the toys that were stored there." "That's strange," I said. Wonder why she didn't send me to Daddy's office. Putting him there where the toys are sounds more like a reward than a punishment. My father was the principal of the school. "Frank's not scared of anybody. He's real brave," Scotty assured. "He told you that?" "Yes, he doesn't know Daddy's the principal." The next night at dinner, Scotty, so excited he could hardly get the words out, said, "We played ball today, and Frank and Brent got to be the team captains. They chose who they wanted on their teams, and Frank picked me first of all." "That's great, Scotty," said Mama, surprised. "I didn't know you knew how to play ball. Maybe you should ask for a ball, a bat, and a mitt for your birthday." Scotty thought a minute. "Nah, I just like to play it at school. Frank, he hit a home run first thing." A couple of days later, Scotty said Frank got into a fight with a 2nd grader who was way bigger than him, but Frank beat the kid up. "He made his nose bleed and everything," Scotty relayed. "He shouldn't be fighting like that at school," I said. "We should tell Daddy about it." "No, Diane, they didn't do it at school. They went over the alley across the street. Besides, Frank will get mad at me for telling. He doesn't like Daddy. I'll tell him to be good." "Well, okay," I said doubtfully. Scotty had been in school about 3 weeks when he brought a note home from Mrs. Summers, requesting a conference with Mama and Daddy. "What could this be about, John?" Mama asked Daddy. "Baby brother comes home excited every day. You don't suppose he's been naughty, do you?" "Well, Mrs. Summers hasn't sent him to me," Daddy said. "Although that doesn't mean much. She may feel uncomfortable about reporting him to me. She's told me about other kids acting up." Mama said, "How about Scotty's friend, Frank?" "Frank who?" "I don't know his last name." Daddy thought a moment. "No, I haven't heard anything about Frank. Stop worrying, Lorene. We'll find out on Tuesday when we meet with her. What's for supper?" They came home from their appointment, looking humiliated. "Well, what happened?" I asked. "Baby brother is—" "Quit calling him that, Lorene. That's part of his problem," Daddy said. He turned to me. "Mrs. Summers says Scotty is not ready for kindergarten, and we need to pull him out, work with him, and enroll him next year." "What?" I laughed. "You telling me that we Blaines have a school dropout in our family? How could that be?" Daddy chuckled. "Ironic, isn't it? Seems like Scotty can't do basic things like fasten his coat or put on his shoes and socks. He has trouble following simple directions, We just need to work with him for a year, make certain he develops confidence in himself. Mrs. Summers says he worries about everything. I thought he'd changed, I said, just when he was making friends too. Daddy shot a bad look at Mama, and she looked miserably at the floor. When his teacher, he says to me, when his teacher told us how Scotty sits alone at recess and never interacts with other kids in the class, your mother asked about Frank, Daddy said, shooting Mama a dirty look. Mrs. Summers said, there's no one named Frank in the kindergarten class.
Well, you just had to follow Eric, and I have to follow both of you. I'm going to read a couple of short excerpts from my book, just cause.
What's your book?
This is The Tulip Resistance. It was published last year. The small sliver of the moon cast an ominous gray light on the austere old manor of Madame Prinz. Her involvement with the Dutch underground started by accident late one evening when she heard a frantic pounding at her door. She opened the door to a terrified young woman, her hair windswept, her face streaked with tears. She whispered rapidly as she glanced back over her shoulder, "Please, I need help. The Gestapo is close behind me." Madame Prinz gasped at the brisk air on the windy evening as she stepped forward, reached for the girl's hand, and pulled her inside. Without a word, she led the girl into the study where she pushed a button under the bookcase. It swung open to reveal a small closet. "Get in," she ordered. A few moments later, she heard the fierce pounding on the front door. She ambled to the door, but did not open it. "Who's there?" The Gestapo officer ordered her to open the door. She calmly opened the door as he barged in. "What can I do for you this evening, officer?" A young woman with dark hair and a brown skirt was seen coming this way. "We think she has taken refuge with someone. Have you seen her?" "I'm in the parlor having tea, and I do not allow anyone to disturb me until my tea time is over, except you, of course." The officer stared at her darkly. "Search the house," he yelled to the soldiers. The soldiers ransacked the manor and returned to report they had found nothing out of the ordinary and that no one else was in the house. "I would suggest, madam, if you should see the young woman, that you report it to the Gestapo immediately." "Sir, if I do happen to see such a person, perhaps I shall, but I won't because I do not open my door to strangers. Would you be so kind as to put my door in order before you leave?" The officer snorted. "Good evening, madam. I hope you are telling the truth. Hiding fugitives have grave consequences." "I shall keep that in mind. Good night." Madame Prinz turned toward the great room, dismissing him. She walked slowly back to the sofa and sat down, calmly sipping her tea. The second one is a little further on in the story, and this is the officers, the German officers. The group crossed the foyer and headed for the lower level. Eichmann was unprepared for the deterioration that had mutated the once beautiful second floor into a place that transformed human suffering into important information. He entered the first cell and examined every detail, from the swill bucket and cot to the bits of filth on the floor. He walked to the back of the cell, looked up, and swept the flashlight over the ceiling, stopping at the air shaft. "Get up there, Lieutenant. Find out how 15 men could get through this and where it goes." Lieutenant Austerlitz jumped at the order, and in doing so, kicked the swill bucket. The sound that came from Eichmann was so violent, it was as violent as an erupting volcano. Lieutenant Austerlitz grabbed a white handkerchief and began a sing-song of apologies. Eichmann held up his hand and walked out the cell, slamming the door behind him. Lieutenant Austerlitz stared with his mouth open, the handkerchief dangling from his fingertips locked in. He quickly banged on the door and another guard opened it, letting him out. In the next cell, Eichmann ordered the guard to climb into the passage. The guard cleared his throat. Excuse me, sir, but it is sealed. All of them are sealed except for the 6 cells, sir. But take us there, he bellowed. The 6th cell was like the others. Eichmann walked to the air shaft and shined the light in, where it is asleep. We checked it after the breakout, sir. It runs into a tunnel system under the cathedral. Eichmann ordered the 2 guards to climb into the opening and motioned for Warner to lift him up. At the chamber room, the door had already been blown. Eichmann looked around, his eyes glazed over as if looking into a past where all this had happened before. Were the Germans fighting a holy war like the one centuries earlier? Were they building a new holy empire to supplant Christianity with a new, more amendable Nazi ideology? Were they building a superior race, ridding the world of Jewish rubbish, as they had done in centuries past? Yes, he thought, this is the new golden age, the new empire, the future of the world.
This has been delightful. I haven't been here before, so I'm happy to hear all your good work there. I just have 2 poems that I'd like to read to you tonight, short ones. First one's called Reality. The car, sleek, unique, eye-catching after untold decades, his name in burnished chrome on oxidized color. He was the golden one, his gauge of success, the vogue on magazine covers, business, and news reports. The woman by his side, model perfect, face and form, brandishing his arm, claiming the trophy. Not sure why I remember them. Leftover girlish fantasy when world-renowned seemed attainable, keepable, or youthful naivete before life cynicism. Years passed, indefinable timeline in my mind until his fall, her fall, their fall from camera-captured perfection splashed magazine covers, business, and news reports. I was in the paper once, my face above an announcement. No follow-up post for my ordinary, imperfect life. No name on cars, buildings, the moon. No paparazzi snapping weddings, heartaches, baby pictures, cemeteries. Privacy, my life of simplicity, day-by-day possibilities. Reality, treasure unseen by my girlhood self. The second one is called Computer Drain, and those of you who are near my age trying to use computers hopefully will understand this. I used to look and find a book to tell me all I had to know, but now in streams, vast info reams pop up on my computer flow. I start to scroll, I'm on a roll, through one site, 2, then 3. There's more? The world is here, I think it's clear, but have I seen that site before? No doubt it's quick, just one mouse click, and scads of foe and facts appear. I feared the drain on my old brain, wish I could link a younger year.
Well, I'm going to break the rules tonight because I'm going to read something that's not mine and that I don't have permission to read. And let me tell you how that works. Here at the library, I'm in charge of the donations to the library. And once someone donated a notebook, and when I opened it up, it had someone's personal writings in it. Just 2 pages, and I found them oddly compelling. There was no name anywhere on it, and so I put them on my blog about 1.5 years ago, and thought I'd share them with you tonight, see what you think. Page 1, 9/17/05, Saturday, 8:33 p.m. So I started another journal last week, but my room is such a mess that I can't find it. 9/18/05, Sunday, 9:25 a.m. I got up earlier than normal this morning because I need to be alert and awake today. Friday, I had a sort of nervous breakdown or anxiety attack, and I quit the second job I'd started the night before. Vocabulary, spiritual study, book, institute, workout, eat right, don't cash checks unless I have to keep them safe for myself. Page 2. Keep everything picked up, in all caps. Discipline. Make it fun, though. Rewards. TV. Ultimate? Question mark, question mark. Volleyball. Rollerblading. Bike with Melissa. Oft times when I make a list of things I need to do, I go crazy, crossed out, nuts with it in a good way, and think of everything even if it's not very feasible. I find myself now only allowing myself to think of things that I feel I can accomplish, and that is it. I should dream big. RS broadcast, Relief Society broadcast, Saturday, 5 p.m. Arta and Jones, 6:45 p.m. Monday, work 6 a.m. First transmittals and fax. Then Oakwood, I don't know what that is. Prioritize Hayden, VP with special release. Page 3, call and change name, Charity to Tracy. Transfer to credit card, Trader Joe's, FHE, tailgate.
Okay, this time I'm going to need you to turn that off. You think I'm joking, I'm really not.
And if anybody else doesn't want to be recorded, let Danielle know. If you didn't like what you did, you have to tell her or you'll be recorded on